So our goal is really to be very candid and also to share real life experiences as we truly live in a very disruptive time. So I'm absolutely honored to be here today with you and also with amazing colleagues, entrepreneurs who are truly having a real hands-on experience of what is it to live in the era of revolution. So I would like to start with encouraging each one of them to present themselves, also share their stories, and how they have been disrupting the industry. So Bruce, maybe we can start with yourself.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm probably a little bit different than the other, my co-panelists. I actually work for a company, AIC Title Service. We're not involved in providing air transportation, but in acquiring the assets for air transportation. And the players in our industry are the Oklahoma City law firms and the title service companies that provide services to help people apply for and register their aircraft with the Federal Aviation Administration. They conduct title and searches, title examinations, and provide reports on the histories of aircraft title. They help register aircraft on the International Registry, as well as we provide escrow services, holding the money and documentation for aircraft transactions. And at AIC, we like to affectionately talk about our competitors in our industry is that they utilize typewriter technology in developing and delivering their services. As compared to what we do, we feel we've been an innovator in utilizing technology in our industry. About 10% of our very small workforce resides in our IT department, and we've spent seven figures multiple times in the development of storage and secure places to store our clients' information and data, as well as some creative tools to assist and help facilitate the title services that we offer. A couple of the things that we've done is that we've worked with our own technology to interface with the FAA records to make the process of N-number reservations and assignments easier. We've developed escrow trackers to help provide real-time information on the status of aircraft transactions so that people at any given time can find out where the bottlenecks are in their transactions, who hasn't provided their deliverables to get a deal done or a deal closed. And finally, one of the things that I think for a bunch of good old boys and girls from Oklahoma, we're kind of proud that we are the largest customer of the International Registry in terms of utilizing and purchasing services from the International Registry. And as part of that, we've utilized some of our technologies to interface with their information to expedite and automate title or searches of the International Registry and deliver reports. We've automated that and can deliver those very effectively and efficiently. But the one thing that we've done, I think that we like to say that we stand out as a disruptive party in our industry is a project that we announced in London at CJI this past year, and one that we just rolled out this past August, and that is creating an aircraft closing room that's secured by blockchain. Now, what is blockchain? What does it do? I think with all the people here from the tech industry in Silicon Valley, I'm probably the least qualified person to tell you or describe what it actually does or how it works. Just to say that it is a software technology that was originally designed for the cryptocurrency industry to provide integrity and verification of transactions in that industry, but now is being applied in many other industries to secure information, data, and other types of transactions. And we've done that for our customers. So one of the big questions is why are we doing that? Well, in our escrow services department, we actually handle over $1 billion every year in funds that are being involved in aircraft transactions. One of the things that happened when I joined AIC Title back in 2014. A few months after I'd been there, learned that the FBI had called a meeting of all the players in our industry because, as it turned out, even though we weren't a victim, many of our competitors had their information hacked. They were getting fraudulent wire instructions, and money was quickly disappearing overseas and being lost, millions of dollars.
Bruce, I think we'll just continue also with a representation and presentation, and then we'll go back with a little bit more hands-on experience. So Adam, PrivateFly has had an amazing journey. Congratulations for the recent victory as well. So can you just share a little bit more?
My story started 10 years ago. I had a fantastic job as a pilot flying with NetJets, but pilots are quite tricky people to employ, and I was no different, and I didn't like being told at the end of the month when I could see my kids the next month and not. So I took a ridiculous idea to my wife, who had a really well-paid job in London in the magazine industry, that I should just do a little bit of flying as a freelancer, and we should start selling jets flights online, because nobody was connecting the customer to the aircraft operator. So one night we sold our house and invested the money in some code and started from there. And it worked. It worked in the UK. But we realized we needed to expand to Europe. We raised a small amount of money, £2 million, which is tiny compared with what other competitors did behind us. And then it turned profitable, which was really important. We expanded to the States. And a month ago, we sold the company to directional aviation, to OneSky. OneSky is a large group of independent companies, which we've got Skyjet now, and PrivateFly will be combined with Skyjet. There's Sentient, which sell jet cards, and there's FlexJet, all under the OneSky family. So the disruption now continues because we've got to try and put all of that sourcing of aircraft in one platform. So the job's not done.
Fascinating, and good luck with your new ventures. Richard, you're with WingX Advance, and you definitely have the privilege of observing also the industry and analyzing. So tell us a little bit more about your story and what do you think is happening.
Hi everyone. Yeah, nice to be here. My company is called WingX. We're a market intelligence company, and we provide data analytics and business insights to the global business aviation sector. So who are our customers? They are the global supply chain, from operators to charter brokers to all the ground-based suppliers, and including the manufacturers and investors in our industry. How do we supply our product? What's the value add? We focus our insights around flight activity. So we track every flight sector conducted worldwide. We've got 15 years of records on that. We mesh that data, and we provide our suppliers with insights which, at a strategic level or a granular level, are designed to support decision making. And we do that through software as a service via dashboards to which our customers subscribe. So would I say we're a disruptor? To be honest, and I'm not being self-effacing, I don't think we're a disruptor. That said, I created this company because I came into the industry and I, from my perspective, couldn't see anyone really joining the dots effectively. So that's why I created WingX, and I think that through our service, hopefully, we will and have enabled other disruptors.
Lovely. And Wagas, you're coming with a very strong technology background. You have been doing some wonderful things in Europe as well as in Middle East. Please share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks. I'm the CEO, CTO of JetClass. We had a lot of discussions on how to increase the total addressable market size in business aviation. And we believe we in JetClass, we're already doing that today. We are connecting the business class passengers of traditional airlines and putting them on scheduled business jets in Europe. We are operating since over a year in Europe, and right now operating over 30 flights a month. And yeah, the market feedback is showing that we hit the right product market fit. We built actually 3 major technologies to do so. One of them is scanning over 3.6 million commercial airline tickets for us to understand actually where is the demand of these business travelers. Then we have our own charter marketplace to cover the supply side. We have over 200 operators we work with. And then we have our own dynamic distribution technology, which helps us actually to distribute and sell these tickets through the GDS, OTAs, and meta-search systems, like any other airline. So the result is that customers and passengers, they can go and book a ticket on one of our scheduled private jets, like they would book a ticket with of any other airline. Is it through the Expedias, the Skyscanners, or Kayaks, or through any travel agent? Yeah.
Wonderful. And Rob, you're joining the industry with impressive and very diversified background, and you have been making some wonderful waves with Blade. Share a little bit more about that.
Sure. Thank you very much. Blade is a digitally powered short-distance aviation company with a focus on urban air mobility. What we do is remove friction from people's lives, specifically when it comes to urban mobility. Right now, no company in the United States moves more people in and out of urban centers than Blade by air. And right now, it's predominantly helicopters, but we also, for longer distances, use amphibious seaplanes and turboprop jets. We like to say we have in the Northeast a mode around New York City. There's no way to fly into Manhattan without either going through or around the Blade Lounge or terminal. We have 170,000 users and their credit cards. And about 2 years ago, we successfully broke what we call as the black car SUV barrier, where you can now fly for $195 from any of one of 3 Blade Lounges in Manhattan to any area airport on a scheduled flight for $195. And that is about, right now, without surge pricing, an Uber SUV black car is about $175. And that turns an hour-and-a-half drive into about a 5 to 7 minute flight. We also view ourselves as one of the closest things that you can have to an urban air mobility product that is on demand. We guarantee a helicopter within 20 minutes from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in New York City. We're able to do that because we have 19 helicopters that are stationed within or based within 4 miles of Manhattan. We're also in Los Angeles. We're also in Miami. We operate in Massachusetts as well. Our 2 largest investors are Airbus and Colony Capital. We're proud to be part of the Airbus family with Vahana and Voom. They've been great partners, along with Colony Capital, which is a real estate company that helps us focus on the infrastructure that we need. We're about to open our first Blade Lounge on top of a building in downtown Los Angeles across from the Staples Center this year, and an pre-existing heliport. So it's a very exciting time. What we're interested in is trying to, again, as I said, remove friction from people's lives, using conventional technology and hopefully all the things that you guys are working on in the future. And thank you for having me here today, Reneta.
You're very welcome. Well, no doubt we're living in absolutely impressive time, and trends such as globalization, technology, transportation, also urbanization, as Uma mentioned, are absolutely changing the way we work and live. How do you think the industry should respond? And specifically, do you find the blurring the boundaries between the current type of aircrafts that we know, or creating a brand new type of aircraft is the right response? What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, so please, Rob, I think
Sure.
you can start.
Again, there have been a lot of discussion today about how long, when is it going to happen, what is it going to look like. What I am trying to do is what we're trying to do is leverage the technologies, the equipment, and the regulatory environment that we have today. I'm not smart enough to tell you guys what you should be focusing on, but what we do is basically take the path of least resistance. And we believe in a cohabitation phase where helicopters and next generation rotorcraft or eVTOL will be kind of living in harmony for some time. And kind of hope that people don't boil the ocean, so to speak, and focus on things that are so far out. What can we do today to make things quieter? Because at the end of the day, our addressable market is driven by where we can land. If I can have you land next to an office building that you work at, much more attractive to you than if I land you at a heliport 20 minutes away and you have to jump in an Uber. What stops us from having more landing zones? It's noise. And I know a lot of we've talked about noise, we talked about psychoacoustics here yesterday, and that is a problem that I think clearly has to be dealt with for us to really take this to the next level. The only thing I'll add on top of that is the learnings that we have right now tell us there is an existing infrastructure in certain cities that can be used. So the idea that we have to have darken the skies and have $14 flights, I think that's terrific. But frankly, if people in this room can come up with something that can take 4 passengers, carry 1,100 pounds, and go 30 miles, and have a direct operating cost of even $800, but was quiet, that's a $1 billion business in New York City alone today. And that's a much lower hurdle than a lot of the incredible aspirations and projects that many of you have going.
Lovely. Richard, would you like to add something?
Sure. I mean, I think that there are some, very encouraging secular trends we've heard over the last couple of days. The technological innovation, the urban congestion, globalization, as you mentioned, increasing global trade. However, I would say, from the aggregate view I have of the industry over a few years, that we are pretty fundamentally unprepared to take advantage of those. There is lots in our industry which is, should we say, if not broken, in urgent need of improvement. Utilization levels in our industry are woeful. 200 or 300 hours flown on an aircraft, massive asset underutilization. Fragmentation right across the industry, which is a real problem when you're looking at any kind of efficiency gains. Very few operators that have leveraged any of the efficiencies that we saw LCCs take up like 15 years ago. Deliveries that are well down still on 10 years ago. So, I think from within the industry, and fundamentally, if we're talking about business aviation as a kind of travel product, this is still not accessible to most of the public that would want to use it. So, I think that it's a brilliant product, business aviation, although there are a whole number of hybrid products within it. But as an industry, there's so much that needs to be fixed before we start sprinting towards some of these wonderful technological solutions, just to get up and start running rather than dawdling.
Lovely. So let's really look into the market. What does the consumers really like? And I would like to ask Wagas to start.
Yeah, I think consumers, they want a seamless experience from end to end, right? So, and this is also where I think the industry needs to be more connected. And also to the previous answer, I think the industry needs to be more connected to be able to really provide that service to the passenger that he can, with a tip of a button, he can cover the whole trip, right? And so we need to create kind of a connected ecosystem that in future, on long term, when these new products come onto the market, that they just can come in and tap into the existing ecosystem, which will just add great value to customers and gonna ease up the go-to-market for these new products also.
Lovely. Adam?
I think customers, first of all, want control of the process. They want speed. That might be instant pricing, but it might also be prices next week. They want trust. They want expertise, and that could be digital expertise, or it might be a human expert. They want value. So customers, they want it all. And that's our task, is to see how we can serve this up to them. But perhaps what we've got to do is just make it simpler, make it easier for the customer to book and fly. And perhaps that's just the holy grail. Make it easy for the customer.
Lovely, and actually that brings me exactly to the next question, which we discussed, and it's about revolution. So how we can democratize air travel. It's not secret, there are still billions of people on Earth that have never seen even aircraft, not even flying. So how we can share the benefit of air transportation with a broader audience, but also definitely maintain the safety of it at a reasonable cost. who would like to start at it?
Sure, I mean, I'll just have a quick word. I mean, you know, there's a simple answer is, from a very narrow point of view, you know, put the business aviation charter product on a GDS, put it on a, you know, via Amadeus or Sabre, as I know Wagas is trying to do. But, you know, that's a simple answer, a simplistic answer, because it presupposes that there is, you know, guaranteed availability and pricing of a certain sector where you want to fly point to point, and at a kind of price point which is interesting for, you know, individuals that are using other travel solutions. And, you know, to presuppose that, you have to imagine that there are all kinds of coherent channels from the point of B2C contact with consumer back to the organization of the inventory. And as I implied earlier, by and large, that just isn't there yet.
Wagas, I know you're very passionate about it.
If we look at the commercial aviation, they are already well democratized. If you look at the projections of commercial aviation, they're going to double their passenger count within the next decade. Business aviation especially still has a long way to go, but we as startups and entrepreneurs, we still see here great opportunity on democratizing it and bringing in totally new passengers and into business aviation. And if you look at commercial aviation on short-haul travel, their focus is actually on higher volumes and lower yields. And this is a great opportunity for business aviation and other new models to come in and really capture those premium travelers on short haul and serving them, right?
I think I can speak quite boldly about what this industry shouldn't do. I'm a believer that new business models are absolutely needed, but they should start small and grow and learn lessons before they affect too many people. Alistair, your favorite slide of the graveyard. What this industry doesn't need is huge funding of clearly unprofitable business models which are doomed to fail. When aviation companies go down, it's bad news for us all. We lose the trust of our customer base. We lose pilots. Entry-level pilots are put off coming into our industry. Pilots that we have go to the airlines for a stable life. We lose industry colleagues who just leave the sector completely. So I think we should be really wary of huge investment in clearly business models which aren't going to work.
Mm-hmm. And that actually exactly brings me to the next point, which I really wanted to have a candid discussion around. And it's, at the end of the day, entrepreneurs are those who take the biggest risk. And Adam, you're one of the living examples how much hardship you had to go through. But at the same time, you need to stay in business as well. But if it's not profitable, you have to close. So Bruce, from your experience, what have you seen with regards to business models? Did you experiment it inside of your company, maybe having a hybrid models, or you have been coming up with completely new models? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one of the things is that in any type of service that you're delivering, you have to be aware of the fact that you don't want to commoditize the product that you're delivering. We're always concerned about that on our end of the industry because at some point in time, as we provide value through some of the technology and some of the things that we're offering, we don't want to be undercharging for that business. But even from my own experience in the air charter industry, I actually started out in aviation working for an on-demand air charter company that was supporting the automotive and package delivery industry. So we're the cargo carriers, the freight dogs. And yet the company I worked with was very technologically advanced. We had our own aircraft dispatch system that we had developed that integrated with our aircraft situation display so that we actually became bigger as a charter broker than we did as actually an operator. We were delivering more product to our customers. But one of the creative things that we did back during the dot-com crisis was to create a reverse auction marketplace, online marketplace for securing services for our customer base. And in retrospect, I think that was one of the biggest mistakes that we ever made because when times are good, people were able to participate that. But when the industry started to tighten up a little bit, you forced operators to be operating at levels below where they're either at break even or losing money, and safety always becomes a factor when that happens.
Great, thank you. Rob, have you been experimenting yourself with different business models?
Yeah, I think that we started Blade doing crowdsourcing, where we didn't actually have the capital to schedule flights and run the risk of having to fly one person for 90 miles or 40 miles or 13 miles, whatever it is. And then eventually that crowdsourcing gave us signals. Where do people want to go? What time? And then we started layering on schedules. And now we've gone from 80% crowdsourcing in the beginning to probably we're only about 20% crowdsourced now. But we still get great signals from crowdsourcing where basically the customer is taking care of what we call the tertiary schedule. So if someone wants to fly to Nantucket at 10 o'clock at night, we're probably not going to be scheduling a flight. But you could launch one on Blade, and you'll probably get some people to book on it, and thus, as opposed to a charter, you're reducing your charter costs by kind of 20 or 30%. But I think in terms of the economics and business models, I mean, obviously, it's extremely difficult, with helicopters trying to get to that, broad, low price point. I think Kenny Dichter used the Netflix analogy with subscription. We use the Netflix analogy a little bit different. When Netflix first came out, they had a great brand. They had tons of users, lots of credit cards, a great service, but you had to put DVDs in bags and send them around. It was really, really clunky. To a certain extent, that's the way we feel about, helicopters. What's our streaming, as Netflix had moved to streaming, is what you guys are working on, this next generation aircraft. But until then, we're going to try to have a sound economic model with conventional rotorcraft, leveraging our technology, our brand, our network of lounges, and on-the-ground infrastructure. And it will be an expensive product in the beginning, and you're going to have to price it appropriately to make it have the economics work. But over time, clearly the direct operating costs are going to go down, and you're going to have more places to land because of what you guys are working on in terms of sound emissions. And hopefully the economics improve dramatically.
Lovely. So we're definitely living in very disruptive times. I'm quite curious, if you don't mind, to share what keeps you awake at night. Adam, maybe you want to start?
I think bringing young people into the industry. We've got to keep on bringing great talent into private aviation, and we've got to get out there to get to the colleges, to the universities. We've got to spend time, and if we don't do that, we're going to be held back. And also retaining people, retaining millennials. They want to be the CEO in 2 minutes. And that's difficult to manage. So how do you keep these young people engaged and give them responsibility at the right time?
Excellent points. Wagas, would you like to add something?
Yeah, what keeps me up at night is, I work very closely with our tech team, so I go to sleep around 3 a.m. in the morning. But challenges I see is when I travel and I'm not connected, right? That's more what really keeps me up, right? So.
Lovely. So we have some wonderful questions from the audience. We can read them, or someone has a question that would like to share the traditional way. I guess we all need a little bit more coffee. I know afternoon is not easy. But Rob, you had some interesting question with regards to hitting the price of $195.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's no question that volume is, the question is what enabled Blade to hit $195 price point. We offer, there are two types of flights that you would see on the Blade app to the airport. A scheduled flight would be, typical scheduled flight that we launch would be $295. If it's crowdsourced, it would be $195, because we're basically mixing the balance of the economics on the person who launched that flight. People are willing to share short distance aviation flights. A 5-minute flight to the airport with 4 or 5 other people on it is much less onerous in terms of your level of comfort or your willingness to be with other people than being on, say, a Gulfstream to, London. So it was a combination of long-term deals with operators and lowering that hourly, long-term deals with heliports, lowering that landing fee, and then leveraging the users who launched those flights got us to $195. And $295 would be when we schedule it, and that would probably be at about a 46%, gross margin. Again, what's great about it is, the math is pretty simple. We're talking about an hour and a half drive. That's 13 minutes. That's 13 miles away. A 5-minute flight, and so your airtime is really not that long. But so it's all about that function of drive time versus number of minutes in flight, and the economics for certain routes really work that way.
Lovely. So is there any one of you who would like to address any of the questions on the board?
That's a really good one about the booking platform. I think we're heading that direction. We'll get there. Ultimately, that's what the industry needs. And there's some big M&A activities going on. Battle lines are being drawn. And we'll hopefully all be able to work together to bring those all of the data together to be able to give customers much more control. So hopefully, yes.
Yeah, I can envision that type of a booking platform utilizing some of the technology that we've used in our closing room to be able to secure the records, keep track of the contracts, as well as the transfers of money and different things that happen as you start to connect different forms of transportation, but provided by different providers, especially if you have people utilizing multiple modes of transportation.
Yeah, that payment is a big issue.
It is.
Operators deserve to be paid quickly and efficiently. And, the banking industry has been sleeping. They don't have to work at weekends. Everybody else does.
Yeah, very punchy point. I was also just wondering, we're obviously talking a lot about revolution, but I'm sure there might be things that you don't completely agree with or you're worried. So can you just share what is one thing that you don't agree about what is happening right now? And you truly believe it has to be in a different way based on your experience and beliefs?
I mean, I might not be that controversial as to kind of really say people got it wrong, because I've heard some fascinating presentations here with a lot of stuff which I think are fundamentally right. But maybe the kind of way I would fuse that question and the earlier one you had about what makes you worry is to think back 20 years and 10 years, because 20 years ago I was living in the US, I was working in the tech sector in telecom, and working for a company that at the time, well, certainly when I started, had a 5 million market cap, was focused on a new technology called local wireless loop, and was building out these platforms right across the States, had about sort of 50 urban markets. A couple of years later, when, post 2000, 2001 .com, it went to dust. But at the time, there were a lot of new models being talked about. 10 years later, I was working in the taxi business, air taxi business. We heard yesterday, excellent presentation on where a lot of those newcomers went. So I think, and now here we are, last 10 years, the sector hasn't seen much recovery, very modest, and we're probably looking at a recession around the corner in the next 12 to 18 months. So to get to the point, I think we've seen a lot of exciting ventures down the line, but how will the industry manage the next recession?
Well said. And there is one more question which I found quite intriguing as well, is there are definitely a number of charter brokerage. Do you believe that they should be, or it will be, a consolidation of those firms?
I think it's good for the customer, and it's good for the tech. If we look at what we've done at PrivateFly, it was clear that to be a successful platform, you have to get volume through it. You have to work with the aircraft operators, and I've always told our team that we've got two sets of customers: the lady who's buying the flight, but also the aircraft operator. We're nothing without our suppliers, and we need to make it easier for the aircraft operators to quote, and that comes with volume. And if you look at my new situation at OneSky, we're putting together PrivateFly and Skyjet. That's going to be just over 100 million of revenue. We've got Sentient with 6,000 25-hour customers. And then we've got FlexJet. And FlexJet alone does a staggering amount, like NetJets, of chartering on peak days. And we'll be able to put all of that through a single platform and really add value to aircraft operators. We'll be able to pay them quickly and efficiently. We'll be able to give them economies of scale. They should be able to buy crew meals. If you have one aircraft, you should be able to get the same rate as someone with 200 aircraft. So yeah, the consolidation is good for the industry, and it's good for the customer.
Okay, lovely. Wagas, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, there are some questions I could answer. 30 flights per month is limited when airline run dozens of flights per day in key market. Yeah, that's true. We see already today a demand of, a 4 times higher demand today. We are in negotiations with certain operators on buying better and cheaper. And all these new business models kind of work out better with higher volume, because at the end, to access more customers, the price has to come down and made more easy and accessible. So to that point, there is another question here, which just came in. Could an existing airline reservation system accommodate new modes of travel? No, the airline industry, the GDS, they are struggling themselves. They are looking also at new distribution technologies, the NDC, for example. And they have themselves very, very big issues. And also, like business aviation, putting it in a system like an airline reservation, business aviation is very individual, very customized to the passenger. So it's going to be very difficult. We would have to bring it down to a simple product that you just like a card that you can shop it and just pay a button, pay, and done. So with business aviation, we are still a little far away from that, but yeah, and the current existing airline reservation systems, they're not able to accommodate that. And so there has to be some new distribution technology to come onto the market to be able to cover all this. Maybe the new technology, NDC, could be a possible way to achieve that.
Okay, so our time is almost up. Final words for each one of you, so we'll start with you, Rob.
I hope they're not my final words. But
Only for the panel for now.
I'll say one thing about the one of the questions about consolidation. I think one of the things that hasn't really been spoken about, at least today, was thinking about is trust. And whenever we're dealing with new models, new businesses, even using conventional equipment like helicopters or private jets, there's a huge element of trust. So right now we're in a situation with Uber or Lyft. We've pretty much commoditized this, kind of what was called the black car business. And there's the perception that cars are safe, and the experience, sometimes a car may be dirty, sometimes the driver may not know where they're going. These are all workable situations, but not workable when it comes to aviation, where safety is paramount. And I think one of the concerns that I do have is that when you think about these consolidated platforms, you really need a mature business. And I think that you got to have trust, and through trust that's based on your brand. And you also don't want to commoditize that brand. So if you look at Kayak, how are you dealing with Kayak? You're sorting by price. So I think that the final words, at least for this panel, not for life hopefully, would be that to not forget trust and think about the power of these companies and brands, and not to commodify it by some kind of massive consolidation.
So we literally just have a second.
Yeah, so we are living in very interesting times, and there are great opportunities, and big problems, but also great chances for entrepreneurs and startups to resolve them. And yeah, we saw at the conference, great new things are coming up. Yeah, looking forward to it.
So I'm going to quote my friend Emmerich from Lunajets, because he said something yesterday which really chimed with me, which was that business aviation has this opportunity to tie in with the last mile opportunity that has really been probably the most exciting thing over the last 2 days for me. Business aviation focused on the kind of 300 to 400 kilometer trip has the opportunity to tie into this new urban solution we'll see in the next 5 or 6 years.
I'm glad you mentioned him. Where are you, Emmerich? because I want to share a mistake I made. I made lots of mistakes. But this morning, I agreed to do a gym session with my arch competitor. And he's an Ironman, and he absolutely wasted me in the gym this morning. So never, ever go to the gym with your competitor.
Bruce, literally 1
Well,
minute.
I guess instead of having the final word, I get the last word today. And I think one of the things that we all have to be aware of, a lot of these things are exciting. It's fun to be part of companies that are trying to do new things in the industry, trying to attack the industry with different approaches. But one thing I would have cautioned everyone in the air transportation field is to really realistically look at the regulatory requirements, because I've had opportunities to work with both the FAA and the DOT, and sometimes when you get things outside of their model, it's difficult to get that process through, and if you rush them ahead of time, the ramifications are that when something bad happens, then the regulations will even be worse.
Thank you very much.